Hi, and welcome to Girls Lunch, your mealtime companion, where we talk about food, gender, sexuality, and where everyone is welcome.
I'm Nicole Hilton.
I am Julia Andreas.
Julia, as the listening people at home may know, you are dairy intolerant, so you cannot eat the milk chocolate.
Doesn't mean I did not try as a child.
Oh, yes. Supposing that M&Ms were not made of milk chocolate, do you have a favorite type of M&M? In other words, like plain peanut, they even have like peanut butter, almond, there's like lots of different flavors.
Peanut M&Ms are where it's at. I loved those things as a kid when I was still putting my tummy through the ringer. I loved me a good peanut M&M. I just found like it had more substance than just like a normal M&M. Like you get the peanut in the middle and you get like the nice crunch. They made like a really good snack.
Technically, my favorite is the mini M&Ms. I love those boys. Do you remember in college, like my obsession with these? How I would
I do.
keep a little tube
You would have a little tube.
for like when I was having a rough time.
Yeah. It's like some people would come home and they'd take a shot of like whiskey or whatever. You would come home and you just take a shot of the M&Ms out of your tube.
I would indeed. I still love those little guys.
It's just like it's just like great mouthfeel. Like mini M&Ms. It's just good texture.
Yeah, I think it's that. I don't know if it has something to do with like the ratio of chocolate to candy, or I think it's just because they're so small and you can eat like a whole bunch at one time. And the tube also has a very satisfying noise when you open it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, like something about the packaging as well. I'm like, tube is where it's at.
A tube of candy that you can just kind of pour down your gullet. Like, who's not gonna enjoy that?
So, as you may have guessed from my opening question here today, we are going to talk about M&Ms. Do you know anything about the history of M&Ms? Where they come from?
I actually don't know anything about M&Ms. I don't know who M or M is.
Oh, we will know. We will learn.
I just know that as a child, my brother once tried to prank me by putting M&Ms and Skittles in the same bowl. And his prank was foiled because I just ate all of it. And I did not care.
Was that his intent of like you would eat them, be like, oh, like chocolate and fruity flavors, like they don't normally go together?
Yeah. I think that was his plan. It was like a little bowl of M&Ms and Skittles, and it would be like, oh, bleh, like chocolate and whatever, and then I just ate the whole bowl.
Bold of you to assume that I would be stopped by such...
Especially like baby Julia, who had the appetite of like a void. I would eat anything.
Just a little vacuum, that child.
Yep, she was indeed.
Okay, so we will learn what the M's stand for. M&Ms are so... to me, like, so universally popular that it feels weird to say, like, oh, if you live somewhere else and you don't have them, like, they have M&Ms, like, all over the world, and they're, like, one of the most popular candies ever. But I suppose if you live in some corner of the world, this sounds so derogatory, like, I guess if you live somewhere...
You live under a rock.
They are little candies, probably about the size of, like, your thumbnail, I would say. I'm looking at my own thumb right now to confirm, like, yeah, that seems about right. Chocolate on the inside, they have a hard candy-coated shell. On the outside, a rainbow of colors, and a white M printed on them. Okay, so I think the place that makes the most sense to start is the very beginning. The company that makes M&Ms is Mars Inc., which is one of the biggest candy companies in the world. Have you heard of Mars, Julia?
Oh, yes. I know Mars.
So they make lots of candy. I mean, Milky Way, Three Musketeers. They make Starburst. So Mars is not only one of the biggest candy companies in the world, it's also generally one of the biggest companies in the world. Like, they are one of those megacorps, right? So, like, this is an entire other rabbit hole, but I was looking into, like, okay, like, what does Mars Inc. own? So they own everything from candy and snacks to dog food. They somewhat recently purchased Wrigley, so like, Wrigley's gum, the gum people.
Do they still make Wrigley's gum?
Oh yeah, well, they make a Juicy Fruit.
They still make Juicy Fruit?
That's all my grandpa chews, exclusively.
Wow.
He may be the reason that they're still in business now that I think about that. So Mars owns Wrigley. They own Pedigree, the dog food people.
Okay.
Combos, which are the very popular like gas station snack. That's like the little pretzel thingies.
Whoa. Okay.
Dove chocolate, or the Dove ice cream bars. Uncle Ben's rice. As of I think last year, maybe 2 years ago, they acquired Kind bars.
Huh.
And they also make like pet equipment, and I think they have a veterinary division as well. Like they like make aquariums and like pet supplies. It's whack. Like they really are like a megacorp that just sort of owns whatever, and they are privately held, and they're still owned by the Mars family. At the time of the inception of M&M's candies, which is like roughly the 1930s, is when sort of like the ideas developed and then patented in 1940, I believe. Mars is not this megacorp, right? They are just making candy. The Mars company was owned by this guy, Frank Mars, who's like the founder. And then, as we'll talk about in a second, his son, Forrest Mars, comes along and helps. He's like real big businessman. So this is, like I said, we're thinking in sort of like the 1930s is where we're going to sort of start today. At this point, Hershey is definitely around, making plenty of chocolate, doing very well. Hershey actually supplies Mars with chocolate for a while because it's easier for Mars to just like get their chocolate from Hershey instead of like making it themselves. Because you figure Mars is not making just chocolate, right? They're making things like Milky Ways, Three Musketeers, like candy bars that have chocolate in them, but chocolate is not, it's not like Hershey bars where chocolate is like the thing. So for a decent amount of time, or at least sort of early going here, Mars is getting a lot of its chocolate, or all of its chocolate, from Hershey.
And that makes sense because that's actually like, that's still done in like the chocolate industry today, where a lot of places that make like chocolate candies, like if you go to like a chocolatier shop, they don't make the chocolate in house. They order it from like a chocolate maker or in bulk chocolate to make then into candies. Like it's very rare that you will have a chocolate shop that makes their own chocolate and then makes candies out of that chocolate.
Right. I mean, like it also kind of works out for both businesses in the sense of like, Mars gets the chocolate that they need to make their candy bars, and Hershey like makes money selling them their chocolate. The founder, Frank Mars, he is the candy man. His son, Forrest Mars, is the businessman. He's very similar to Fred Harvey in the sense of like he has a temper. I don't know if people necessarily considered Fred Harvey to be arrogant, but they definitely considered Forrest Mars to be arrogant. He had a Ivy League background. I think he went to Yale. He studied business. He is like a very competent businessman and salesman, but he also, very similar to Fred Harvey, has the like tantrums where he will like yell at employees if things aren't done right. I don't know why businessmen have to be like this, but here we are.
Here we are.
So partially because of this, just his sort of attitude, Forrest and Frank, sort of have a strained relationship at times, and they argue a lot. In 1932, Forrest and his dad have a really bad argument when Frank, the dad, says, like, get lost. Like, get out of here. I don't want you in the business anymore. He gives Forrest, I think, $50,000 and the rights to the Milky Way to sell, like, overseas. And that's what he does. So Forrest then goes overseas to Europe, and he learns like how to make candy, because at this point he's mostly just been sort of like a managerial type, but now that he's like sort of on his own, he's like I need to know how to make the stuff. So he learns candy making, he sets up his own business, and then eventually like he picks up some success. I'm abridging a lot here, but we need to get to M&Ms, which is where we're going to be next. So while he is in Europe during the I believe it's the Spanish-American War or Spanish Civil War, one of those. the war. You know,
A
there
war.
were many. The A war. So while he's over there, he sees English soldiers eating a candy called Smarties, which is different than the Smarties that we have here in the U.S. Julia, do you see the pictures that I have posted?
I am looking at the pictures, and the first one is familiar and comforting, and the second one I don't recognize, and it scares me. The American Smarties is like a very chalky.
Yeah.
It's like a sweet and sour Tums, one could say. I enjoy Smarties a lot, the American kind. European Smarties I've never seen before in my life, but they look suspiciously a lot like M&Ms.
Yes. So it is candy-coated chocolate stored in a paper tube. To us today, Smarties, European Smarties, probably look like an M&M's knockoff. In the sense of, like, you know, they're the same, like, round, candy-coated, rainbow colors, stored in a paper tube, which is, we'll get there, but M&Ms start out being sold in paper tubes, which I kind of like, and I'm like, could we bring that back?
We should go back to that.
I like the tube.
The tube, man. The tube is where it's at.
Something important about European Smarties is that even though there's chocolate in there, it doesn't melt, right? So even though it's like really hot, you know, these soldiers are trekking around through combat and Lord knows what else, but the candy does not melt, which if you know anything about M&Ms, that is a key selling point.
It is, in fact. I think there is like there was like an advertisement that's like, it doesn't melt in your hand or something like that.
It is perhaps one of the most famous advertisements or slogans is the melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of vintage commercials for research for this episode. I love getting to watch TV as research. But yeah, they have lots of commercials, like sort of early on before we get the Spokescandies, where it's like people, especially young children, they like show a child with a chocolate bar, and this kid is a mess, right? He's got chocolate smeared all over his face, all over his hands. This child is a disaster of a human being. This is a child that needs to just be dumped in the tub and sprayed down with a hose. But then they show the child with M&Ms, and they show the child has clean little hands, and he's a clean, good little boy.
So clean and good.
And so, don't you want to be like the clean, good little boy and have clean hands by M&Ms?
What if I want to be dunked in a tub and sprayed down by a hose?
So European Smarties, I mean, like, you could argue, like, did Forrest Mars, like, steal this idea? I don't know. There's definitely, like, something to be said about some inspiration here, right? I don't think you could say, like, he pulled this idea out of thin air. So after, like, messing around with his own formula, making his own versions of these little candy-coated chocolates, Forrest comes back to the United States in August of 1939, and he shows up at the Hershey offices, and he goes on a factory tour, just like with everybody else. And then at the end of the tour, he tells the tour guide, I would like to speak to the... It's sort of a Karen move if I say it this way, but I would like to speak to the president of the Hershey Corporation.
Boy, what a time. 1939. You could just be like, hey, I want to talk to him. And they would just be like, okay.
Yeah, well, importantly, he says, like, Mars is here. You know, he uses his last name. And he says, like, Mars is here. That's all that he needs to know. And then, you know, the president of the Hershey Company, William F.R. Murray, is like, oh, well, yes, please show him in. Because they know each other at this point, right? Like, the companies have had some business dealings before. Murray knows Forrest a little bit. He knows Frank, his dad, pretty well, just from different business dealings. Forrest is shown into Hershey president's office, and he shows him, he pulls out of his pocket a handkerchief, and inside the handkerchief are these little candy-coated chocolates. And he says, I have had these in my pocket since I got on the train in New York. They are not melted. They are clean. Look at the clean handkerchief.
Zootalore.
Zootalore is exactly what William Murray says. Not exactly, but he is very impressed, right? Because, as we said, you know, if you have, I mean, as people know, right? Like, if you have a chocolate bar and it so much as, like, you know, sits in your hand or whatever for too long, it gets squishy. So Murray is like, this is great. This is awesome. I would like to be involved in this new business venture. So he is busy running the Hershey Corporation, but he suggests, like, hey, I have this son who's, like, finishing up in business school. Why don't you work with him? So they do that. Forrest Mars and Bruce Murray, one of William Murray's sons, get together into a business agreement, and they start a new company called M&M, and the M&Ms stand for Mars and Murray, their last names, because it's like I'm doing the like little handshake
partnership
thing. Yeah, it's a partnership. Not equal, but Forrest owns 80% of the company, and Bruce Murray owns 20%.
Okay, so one M is bigger than the other M.
Yes, yeah. They begin manufacturing M&M's chocolate candies in 1940. And it is a good thing that Hershey is involved, because at this point World War II is happening, and the government has strict rations on things like sugar and cocoa. And don't you know that Hershey is like the exclusive supplier to the U.S. military of chocolate, and the U.S. government says, like, oh no, that's fine, you guys can keep going, everybody else though, you have to ration and cut back. These Hershey guys though, we really need them to keep making chocolate for the GIs, because it helps pep them up, you know.
Helps
they need
give
a little
them
treat.
morale.
In 1949, Forrest buys Bruce out, because they eventually get to arguing because of businessmen who just argue all the time. I think Bruce felt like Forrest was like, I mean, he has this sort of abrasive personality, right, of like yelling at everybody, including Bruce, and he's like, all right, this kind of sucks, I'm dipping. So Forrest buys him out. M&Ms are now like exclusively owned by Mars. So the original M&Ms, like I said, they're sold in paper tubes, which I have a picture of below, Julia.
That's so cute.
I do really like it. I think this is like some kind of ad during, 1942, it says at the bottom. Because this is what soldiers got in their rations, right? They got a tube of M&Ms. Because they didn't melt, right? They could be in these like warm places. Especially during World War II, they're in like Polynesia, right? So it's toasty over there. But don't worry, those M&Ms don't melt.
I think if someone handed me like this little tube of chocolate M&Ms, I would be very pleased. It is quite cute, and if M&Ms and Mars know anything, they should bring the tube back, because it's adorable.
Bring back the tube.
Bring back the tube.
This clapping is going to be like terrible for when I go to edit this later, but it's okay. I do also think that it's cool that we still have some form of the tube, in the sense of like mini M&Ms. They still come in a tube, but I think overall we should bring the tube back.
The tube!
So since M&Ms are included in soldiers' rations during World War II, they become really popular, right? I mean, wouldn't this tube of like little bright candy, you know, help you get through some of the horrors of war just like a little bit easier?
Yeah, I think it's so funny, because this is so true of so many things all over the world, not just with like US, but how the food landscape of a country changes based on like what food soldiers have and what they bring back. Because there's many places where, like, I think it's Nigeria that has egg rolls, because there was some war and like soldiers went out to an area where like there were egg rolls and they brought that back.
I'm thinking about how Hawaii has Spam. Spam is huge in Hawaii.
Exactly. And it's just interesting how war and like soldiers can like cross food boundaries and sort of blend them.
For sure.
Or make a food super popular, like M&Ms and donuts. Ha 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 ha.
Ho ho. You can trace geopolitical conflicts and events through food and was popular. That's going to be my next thesis.
I can't wait to read it.
But then I'd have to learn about like geopolitical conflicts, and that sounds really boring to me.
But the food, though.
So tempting. So let's see. So those are the original M&Ms. Obviously, like over time, we have gotten many new flavors. We get peanut M&Ms in 1954. In addition to like different flavors we've had over the years, There's also been different colors and different proportions of colors as well. So, like, how much of one color you get in a bag. I'm suddenly having a flashback. Listeners, let us know if you also had to do this. But I believe at some point in school, either elementary or middle school, when we were learning about probability, we were given, like, bags of M&Ms. And we had to dump them out and count, like, how many blue ones, how many red ones, how many brown ones. And then use that of, like, you have a 25% probability of getting a blue M&M or whatever.
Yes.
Did
I had
you
to do this too. I had to do this too.
I'm suddenly like, was this a universal experience? I'm going to ask Ryan the second I go downstairs.
I'll have to ask David. Or is this like specifically a Maryland thing?
I don't know. So they have not only like different probabilities of colors or different ratios of colors, but they just generally have different colors over the years. So original M&Ms, like I said, they're sold in the paper tubes. They come in 6 colors: red, yellow, green, orange, brown, and purple. Purple has been gone for a very long time. I think only within the last year or so, I think they brought it back. Red was removed in 1976 after the FDA said certain types of red dye were a potential carcinogen, even though Mars was not using that red dye in M&Ms. They were still like, well, we just want, people to feel safe and we'll take them off the market. But so many people felt strongly about it that red did come back in the 1980s. We can talk a little bit about the, like, cultural impact of M&Ms here in the U.S. Like they were the first candy in space. They were sent up with astronauts. There is M&M World in New York City and Las Vegas and also London, I think. Have you been to M&M World, Julia?
I don't think I have.
No? Okay, because I've definitely been a couple of times on some, like, school field trips to New York City. There's this giant store, like, near Times Square that is just, like, I want to say it's, like, 3 floors. There's an elevator. The store is just M&Ms.
Huh.
You can get an M&M in basically any color. You can get a personalized M&M. You can write something on it, or, like, you type it into the computer and then they, like, screen print it onto an M&M. You can get whatever, like, blends of, like, I want some purple and some gray and some green and some yellow or whatever, and you can get that in a bag. There's all kinds of, like, merchandise for all of the M&Ms characters. You can get your coffee mugs and your tote bags, and it's really something. So let's talk about those M&M characters. Do you know these guys? Do you know them?
Yeah, so the ones that I know are the classic red and yellow, and it's like the red guy is like a little short dude who he's got like a New York personality.
I love that.
And then the yellow one, I believe, is a peanut M&M. I could be wrong. I feel like he's a peanut M&M.
You're correct.
And he's more of like a Patrick the Starfish kind of character.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the green M&M. We'll get to her later, I'm assuming.
Oh, we will probably spend half the episode talking about the green M&M.
Yeah, and then I believe there's also the blue M&M, who I think is also a girl?
No.
Oh, no, the brown one. The brown M&M is female presenting.
I was going to say, like, I don't really know how you assign gender to, like, a piece of candy, but don't worry. Yeah. People have and continue to do and feel very strongly about it.
And so there's also the brown M&M that's female presenting, and then I think there's just, like, a blue one. Those are the only ones I know.
That's most of them. The blue one is the, like, cool one. He's, like, really laid back and cool. There's also, I think the only one that you might have missed is the orange one, who is also plain M&M, and he's supposed to be, like,
and he's like a
crazy,
scaredy cat.
Yeah, like paranoid.
Neurotic.
Yeah. And then I think they recently introduced a purple M&M within the last, like, year, but we will get there. So let's talk about those mascots. Where do they come from? A lot of my information came from a really great video essay by Nostalgia Critic on YouTube.
Yeah.
He sort of is approaching it from the sense of, like, these as characters. He sort of makes the argument of, like, they would make a really cool movie. Like, I would go see a movie with these guys. So where do they come from? So very early on in their advertising, Mars is fond of using, like, anthropomorphic M&M candies in advertising. So, like, They have, like, little drawings of M&Ms that, like, walk around. They have hands and feet. But it does take a while for us to get the, like, specifically defined characters like we have today, right? For them to really have personalities. The, I guess, like, defining of the M&M's characters begins, I would say, with the invention of peanut M&Ms, because then you can have two different characters in two different shapes instead of just, like, a bunch of little round guys that look the same. You can then have, like, a smaller, like, round, plain one, and then you can have, like, a taller, more oblong peanut one. And red and yellow, who's also sometimes green, sometimes yellow, sort of emerge as the two initial Spokescandies, with red representing plain, and then yellow or green representing peanut. So, Julia, if you look on page 5.
That is an incredibly 60s, 70s looking cartoon.
It is, yes. So, this is from the 1970s. Would you like to describe what the little M&M's friends look like here for people at home?
Yeah, I'll describe the M&Ms, but I don't know if I can help not describing the funky little man that's behind them.
Yeah.
So you have the I guess it's red. It kind of looks orange M&M, and he's small. He's got like the classic white hands and like little white feet. He's got a little smile on. He looks pretty cute, pretty harmless. And you've got the more egg-shaped green peanut M&M, and he also looks pretty cute, pretty harmless. And then you have this guy doing a jig in the background, and he's wearing like yellow overalls, and he's got a little hat on, and I don't know, I don't like the way he looks.
This ad was like version of the song, like the Candyman, I think it is. Do you remember from like Willy Wonka, where it's like, who can take the sunshine?
Yeah.
That one. They basically did a version of that, but it's like the M&M's man.
I don't like the M&M's man.
He obviously did not last. Okay, so that's from the 1970s. So we have like, they sort of, like, they're recognizable to us, right? But they're not exactly what we have today. So in the mid-1990s, sales of M&Ms are not really doing what Mars would like, and the candy has sort of lost a little bit of its uniqueness. Mars hires this advertising firm named BBDO, and BBDO comes up with the idea of the red and yellow Spokescandies. And not just like, these sort of generic ones that we've had before, but making them more defined characters. They are animated by Blue Sky Studios. So, like, the Blue Sky Studios that made Ice Age and Robots and Rio, if you have seen any of those movies. So originally, because of the sort of like high price of the CGI, the original commercials are pretty simple. They just have these two characters with like a celebrity, and they're kind of chill, like laid back. They're not, especially zany or anything. What do these guys look like, Julia?
That early 90s CGI. They clearly haven't quite figured out what they look like yet in the top photo. They look a little like cherubic.
Yeah.
They kind of look like the 3D version of the 70s like cartoon.
Yeah, I agree.
A little off-putting.
Yeah, so they still have like the white gloves. I think they have more of like a skin tone on their arms and legs now. They have like white shoes. Their eyes are like unblinking. I'll say they don't really have eyelids. That might be why they look a little weird. So that's sort of like the first inception of the 3D M&Ms, and then they get a little bit of a facelift, and they also get some celebrity voice actors. So the original yellow and red M&Ms are voiced by John Goodman.
John Goodman?
Yeah, and John Lovitz, and they get a facelift by Will Vinton, who, if you have heard of the California Raisins, and he also invented claymation.
Okay.
Just chill. This guy's like a legend, but he also, really helped invent the M&M characters that we know today. And at this point, they get more personality, right? So like you talked about, yellow's like kind of slow, but he's a really nice guy. Red is more sarcastic. He's kind of scheming. They really take off. And so, Julia, this is an ad. This bottom picture is from 1995. And how would you say that this... I mean, this is like the M&Ms we have today, basically.
Yeah, I was about to say, those are the M&Ms that I know and admire.
Their facial expressions, I would say, are like more defined in terms of like showing real reactions to things. You know, they've got eyebrows that go up and down. They've got eyelids. Their mouths make faces. You know.
I'm now thinking about like all the M&Ms commercials with these guys that I've watched and how like they have felt so separate from like other candy commercials, and like you said, with a more mature feel. I think it's because you have like these, especially like at this point, pretty well defined characters, and you are just putting them into like essentially more or less real life scenarios. Like in this picture, they're just sitting on a couch watching TV, or in like other ones that I've seen, like they're just interacting with like celebrities or like walking across like a Hollywood set or something. And it's like, it definitely defines them as being like separate from the candy, kind of in the way that like an actor is separate from the role.
But still like very recognizable, right? And like, I think having distinct personalities like that helps sell the candy, even if like you don't necessarily think about like, I mean, the way that like marketing or advertising works, right, is you're not necessarily thinking of like, haha, those guys are so funny, I should go buy some M&Ms. It's just like the characters and the scenarios that like are shown in the commercials sort of like gives you a particular feeling, and that then like stays with you when you go to buy candy, I guess.
Like you said in the previous episode, good stories make good sales.
It's true.
And if you have good characters, you'll have a good story, and therefore you shall have good sales.
There we go. And so because of that, because of these two characters, initially Red and Yellow, are a great success, in 1995 they hold a contest for which color should get a Spokescandy next, and they choose Blue, who, as I said, is like the cool one, the chill one. They add other characters over the course of the next several years, with the next one being Green. And Green, as we've teased, is a little bit different than the other ones.
Oh, she is.
And how we will talk about after the food fact of the day.
Let's go get that food fact of the day. Hello and welcome back to Is It Ice Cream Sundae or Nail Polish?
Audience clapping.
Audience clap. Please clap. I've had a very tumultuous month, so I have not had any time to find a food fact of the day. So I was like, well, why not just fall back on a fan favorite? And by fan favorite, I mean my favorite.
It's also my favorite. So
a fun little game called Is It 1920s Ice Cream Sundae or Is It Nail Polish?
Yay! And I mean, I think this works out great, especially since like M&Ms are so colorful, like nail polish. But I also, when I was younger and I would make like an ice cream sundae, I loved putting M&Ms on my ice cream.
Oh yeah, that little bit of crunch.
Yeah.
So good.
It was very good. Put some M&Ms on top of a nice scoop of vanilla, forget about it.
Forget about it. So for those who have not listened to the other episode in which this game made an appearance, I'm going to give Nicole a name, and she has to guess whether that is the name of a nail polish or if it is the name of a ice cream sundae from the 1920s.
I'm so excited. I'm thinking now, like, I totally, like, am gonna zone in. I don't know if you ever watched Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I watched a lot of that when I was a kid for whatever reason. I guess because I wanted to be a millionaire. They play, like, this really dramatic music, so the announcer, like, reads the question, and it's just, like, usually, like, Regis Philbin, the host, and, like, the contestant, and they're just sitting there, and Regis, like, reads the question. And the contestant, like, just thinks about it, like, very seriously, deeply, and they, like, play this, like, thoughtful, like, kind of mildly suspenseful music
yeah.
of, like, what's he gonna pick? I wish that I had a soundbite of that I could use, because that is that's the mind space that I'm gonna be inhabiting when I play this game.
Just put it in and post. So, round 1, ding ding, a cut above.
Cut above. See, I sure going to say this with everyone, but I'm like, I feel like it could be either one. And I'm like, yeah, idiot, that's the point of the game. Like... I'm going to go with ice cream, Regis.
It's a nail polish.
Okay.
Here, I'll send you the... Where's the chat function? I'll send you the picture. It's very pretty. It is a pinkish, reddish, burgundy, sparkly nail polish.
Yeah, I would say like a... kind of like a pink rhinestone.
By Essie. Very nice. A good New Year's nail polish.
Fun Galentine's Day nail polish as well.
Oh,
maybe.
yeah.
You know what? Actually, this nail polish was made to go to the Barbie premiere.
You're absolutely right, it was. Okay, round 2. Ding ding. Bobbing for baubles.
Bobbing for baubles. So I'm assuming it's like baubles, like Christmas baubles?
Baubles.
Okay, yes. That's what I thought. I'm inhabiting the mind space again. See, this makes me think this is like a sparkly nail polish as well, or some kind of shiny. I'm gonna say that this one is nail polish.
Correct.
Yay!
It is nail polish. Good job.
Is it shiny?
It's kind of like a little bit. It's not as shiny as you would expect. It's like a nice deep blue.
Like a sensible, kind of like a jean color. Some dark jeans. Also by Essie, I believe.
Also by Essie, yes. All nail polishes featured in this episode are from Essie, not sponsored.
But if you would like to sponsor us.
But if you'd like to sponsor us. Round 3. Ding ding. Free lunch.
Free lunch? F-R-E-E.
F-R-E-E, that spells
Okay.
free. Creditreport.com, baby.
This is like one of those like compilations of old commercials that like unlock something in my brain I haven't thought about in 15 years. Whoa, boy. It's whiplash. Okay, I need to go back to the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire mind space. Okay, I think this one is ice cream.
Correct. This is an ice cream.
Yay.
Okay, free lunch. Take a deep sundae dish, one that will hold 2 disherfuls of cream, and put in 1 disherful of vanilla ice cream. Over this, put some chocolate syrup, a few pieces of sliced bananas, and a half teaspoonful of malted milk. Now, put in another disherful of vanilla cream and cover with chocolate syrup. Place sliced bananas all around the top with a spoonful of chopped pecans over all. At the top, in the center, place a maraschino cherry with a toothpick through it. This delicacy sells readily for 15 cents and is a trade winner.
Now, I have to say, if it sells for 15 cents, it's not a free lunch.
15-cent lunch. Let's see. This is about 2... A disherful is essentially like a scoop.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds good. I mean, it sounds sort of like you would consider like a traditional sundae in a lot of ways, you know, or like a banana split. It's not split, but it has a lot of the same components.
Yeah, it's essentially just vanilla ice cream, chocolate syrup, sliced bananas, and pecans. So.
And 1 little cherry on top.
1 maraschino cherry. All right, round 4. Ding ding. Tango.
Oh, these one-word ones are so hard. That's why I never give anything a one-word title. It's too much pressure. Tango. I'm gonna say ice cream.
Correct!
Yay!
Ding, ding, ding! Tango. In an 8-ounce phosphate glass, put a number 20 to the quart disherful of chocolate ice cream. Over this, pour 1/2 ounce butterscotch dressing and a soda spoonful of finely ground nuts. On this, put a number 20 to the quart disherful of vanilla ice cream, 1/2 ounce marshmallow dressing, and a dash of ground nuts. Over this, are very little heavy chocolate dressing, and top with a cherry or slice of fresh peach and 1 cloverleaf wafer. Charge 20 cents.
Wild to hear it referred to as dressing.
Yeah, I know. That is. I also have to say that number 20 to the court is one word.
Huh. I was also a little tripped up by did you say phosphate glass? Is that
Phosphate
right?
glass, yeah.
What does that mean?
It's just like a type of little sundae glass.
Oh, okay.
It just has like a little bit. I don't remember what color phosphate gives it, but it's just like a little sundae glass. Marshmallow dressing.
Yeah, it's especially, like, even if you're from the South and you think, like, dressing is the same thing as, like, stuffing, or even, like, salad dressing. Either way, it's a savory thing.
If I ever had a stripper name, it would be marshmallow dressing.
Do we have one more?
We have one more.
Okay.
Final round. I think you are 3 out of 4 correct.
Yes. I beefed it on the first one, but I've come back.
You zoned in. All right. Final round. Peach. Daiquiri.
Is there a period in the middle, or you just did that for dramatic emphasis?
There's just dramatic emphasis.
Okay.
Emphasis.
Okay.
And the syllable.
So it's peach daiquiri.
Peach daiquiri.
See, because it's a food name, that makes me think that I'm going to fully do the Princess Bride thing where he's like, clearly, you would have put the poison in front of me, but a cunning man would have put the poison in front of you. And you are, oh, your intellect is quite stunning, or whatever it is he says.
Mm-hmm.
It's a food name, which makes me think, like, no, Julia's trying to trick me, so it must be the nail polish. But then I'm like, well, Julia would also know that I would know that she would try to trick me, so maybe it is, in fact, ice cream. I think it is actually nail polish, though. I'm going to go with nail polish.
You are correct. It is nail polish. I did try and make this last one a bit of a gotcha, but I couldn't find a 1920s sundae that matched the nail polish. So I wanted it to be like, it's both, haha, but no, I didn't succeed.
Well, the previous one we just talked about, previous recipe, had a peach in it, or a suggestion of a peach.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pretty color, but it's apparently been discontinued, so that's
It
sad.
has. Peach daiquiri is no longer on Essie's list of nail polishes.
Very bright pink, though.
That's a summer color for sure.
Yeah, that's like you're chilling by the pool.
Mm-hmm.
You're lounging in one of those, you're just floating by on the lazy river in an inner tube.
Yep, you've got a big sun hat on.
You've got a big sun hat and some big sunglasses.
Mm-hmm. I do love how you were doing the whole, like, well, if you put the poison in that cup and blah, 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 and how in The Princess Bride he puts the poison in both cups, and how my original plan was to have it be, like, both.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I was like,
You're
oh no,
right.
that's too accurate. That's pretty good. That was 4 out of 5.
You know, inhabiting the game show mind space is really helpful.
Well, congrats, Nicole. You have moved on to the next round of, is it 1920s ice cream sundae or nail polish?
Yay!
Yay!
Yay! Well, after looking at such very pink nail polish, we should talk about a different color that is still very feminine, which is green. We should talk about the green M&M.
Let's get wiggy with it. Let's
Okay.
go.
Let's go. So, are you aware that there is an urban legend of the green M&M as an aphrodisiac?
I'm only aware because you have asked me before, are you aware that there is a legend that the green M&M is an aphrodisiac? Yes. I think at the time I was like, no. I'm still like, no, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, even the concept of, like, an aphrodisiac is really strange to me. I don't know, of, like, you eat this and it's like, oh, I don't know.
This green M&M has made me saucy.
I don't get it, but, like, sure, man. There's an article that I was reading where someone was like, yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of like the power of suggestion or whatever. You know, like, if you say, like, oh, this is an aphrodisiac, then, like, that gets you thinking about sex and therefore possibly interested, you know? So, like, okay, that makes more sense than anything to me. But there is an urban legend of the green M&M as an aphrodisiac. So we don't know exactly where that urban legend comes from. Like, everything I read was like, we don't really know. And I'm like, okay, that's nothing. The, like, closest thing I could find is some kind of source is, like, it started showing up in college campuses in the 1970s of like college students telling other college students like, hey, did you know that the green M&M is an aphrodisiac? And like, I don't know, it's the 1970s. I think people were just looking for an excuse to do it. Probably. But, I mean, you have to think like, you know, if we want to play this out a little bit, there's long been an association between chocolate and sex, or chocolate as an aphrodisiac. Like, historically, you know, we give each other chocolate on Valentine's Day. Chocolate is also often advertised as something like forbidden, especially for women. It evokes passion. I read this interesting article about how like the marketing of chocolate is like a way for women to talk about or think about sex, or like as a substitute for sex, because obviously like women can't talk about sex like out loud in that way. I don't know how much I buy that, but it's interesting to think about. And also, like, the color green has long been associated with things like fertility, vitality, right? So, like, that all sort of makes sense when you think of all those things together. So, you will probably recognize this video as soon as we watch it, Julia, but I would like you to click on the YouTube link. I don't know about you, but as, like, a young queer woman who did not know that she was also interested in women, these like ads that would come on TV in like the mid 2000s, 2010s with the green M&M being like so overtly sexual just made me like, I would file these commercials under media that made me feel weird as like a young queer woman who did not know that she was a queer woman. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Why do I feel weird watching this? I don't, this is weird. Let's watch it.
I'm already looking at like the thumbnail and it's just like so sensual already, and I'm just
There's
like, oh
jeez. So many that I could have picked.
That is uncomfy. That's an uncomfy commercial.
Do you want to like, I mean, I'll post a link to the video as well, but do you want to give the people at home kind of like a brief synopsis of like, what did you notice? So This is an ad for M&Ms Premiums, which is like, that was some version of M&Ms that no longer exists, but this one is for mint M&Ms.
So it starts with like the green M&M doing the sexy little leg out, leg kick. She's wearing heels, by the way.
Yes, very important.
And she does like a little leg kick out from behind a curtain, and it's very like jazzy and slow, and her voice is like super deep and like super sensual, and the whole commercial is just like shot after shot of what would essentially be like a perfume commercial. Yes. Where it doesn't make any logical sense, but it's just kind of about sensuality in general. Like she's putting her gloved hand under the chocolate fountain, and she's like slowly putting like an M&M to her lips, and I think she blows on something at some point, and there's like one part where she's just kind of like lying in like chocolate whatever. But it's very much like I said, like a perfume commercial. It's all about like sensuality and like close camera shots that move slowly and this like deep jazz in the background. And then at the end it kind of cuts to the red, yellow, and I already forgot what the other M&M was. I think it was
the blue one.
And they just kind of are like, whoa, like, you know, classic men being like, whoa, she's pretty SpongeBob or whatever.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the green M&M just kind of like closes the jaw of the yellow M&M as she like walks, like, you know, sassily to her trailer.
There's the perfume part of the commercial, right? But then we get a sort of like meta, not quite breaking the fourth wall, but like we see the three other male presenting M&Ms who are presumably like shooting this commercial. And the thing that always, like, I notice in this one is the yellow one, his knees are wobbling. His, like, knees are shaking of, like, I guess he's just so turned on. It's just, it's so, like, it's very self-aware also, I think.
Yeah.
Of, like, that we know that we are shooting this in a way, like, to be sexy.
It's like a joke about itself where it's like, we're making M&Ms, a kid's candy, like sexy, but we're also like sexualizing an M&M. And so it's kind of just like, haha, isn't this so funny? But it's also just like, well, there are people who like that, and you just did them a huge favor.
That's true. And we will hear from possibly one of the people who likes that later on. That's just one example. There are many commercials like this, right? Basically, ever since they introduced the character, the green character, right? She's always been very sexy. She has this signature, like, heels. She always has that, like, sassy kind of walk. The idea is that they are playing on this urban legend of the green M&Ms as an aphrodisiac, right? That's why she's sexy. They're, like, acknowledging, they're doing, like, a little, like, heh, wink. The first ad campaign that really, like, introduces the green M&M, they end all the commercials with this tagline, "What is it about the green ones?"
Oh.
There's one commercial early on where, like, some actor, you know, they're on, like, a movie set, and some actor comes up to the green M&M, and he's like, "Is it true what they say about the green ones?" And then she flips out, and she's like, "What have you heard?" And he was like, "Oh, I just thought that they were mint." And she's like, "Oh, ha ha ha." And they, like, play it off. But there's also this campaign specifically called "What Is It About the Green Ones?" from 2001. There's a particular commercial. It's really insane. This, to me, is straight culture, also. I'll just say. Like, this is peak straight culture to me. So this commercial from 2001 is two parents. They're sitting in their presumably, like, teen son's room on his bed. They're looking at something on the wall, like, supposed to be a poster, right? And the parents are having this conversation of, like, you know, the mom's like, "Well, I'm just not comfortable with it. Like, I want to take it down." And the dad's like, "Well, you know, it's natural at his age. I would be concerned if he wasn't interested." And we presume that, like, oh, they must be talking about a sexy woman. The types of posters that's, like, Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, you know, of, like, some bombshell blonde who's wearing a bikini or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the commercial, it is revealed that it is not a woman in a bikini, but it is the green M&M. In a similar, like, sexy pose. And the commercial ends with the tagline, "What is it about the green ones?" And then also the mom, like, goes over to the son's bedside drawer and, like, opens up the drawer, and it's full of just green M&Ms. Like, just loose green M&Ms filled to the brim. Which is like, that's really something.
That's something. That is incredible straight culture, though. That is just, like,
yeah.
What's going on over there, straights? What's happening?
Are the straights okay?
Are the
I don't
straights
know if
okay?
This, like, urban legend, it has, like, such a reputation that in 1992, a lawyer from California named Wendy Jaffe, she starts a company called Cool Chocolates Inc., which only sells these M&M knockoffs called the green ones. They only make green. They come in jars that are, I think there's another size, but there's one size that's 6.9 ounces.
Oh my gosh.
Which I think has to be intentional. And she's, like, really playing off this, right? Of, like, oh, if you just want some green ones to get things going. The company lasts about 7 months before Mars sues her for trademark infringement.
Yep.
Which I assume in 1992, that's just how long it took for them to hear about it, sort of in these, like, early internet days, sort of pre-internet. So Mars sues her. They make her change the name of the candy to Greenies, and she has to change the packaging. But it's, like, fully a stunt. I think it's just really interesting, the kind of turn that Mars does. Because at first, they're very much, like, they distance themselves from this kind of narrative. You know, this, like, idea of M&Ms being an aphrodisiac, or green M&Ms being an aphrodisiac, right? They're like, no, it's not true. Like, we don't want to. But then eventually, over time, like, we get these commercials and they sort of start embracing it, right? Or they start being kind of cheeky about it or being cute about it. So, Julia, I would like for you to read this quote. This is from an article in the New York Times in 1993 by Lena Williams. This is in reference to the lawsuit with Wendy Jaffe. This, I think, encapsulates kind of like how Mars feels about this rumor going on at the time in 1993.
Okay. Mars officials said the company took legal action against the green ones because they felt the name, reputation, and, quote, wholesome image, end quote, of M&Ms, which had been given to space shuttle crews and soldiers in the Persian Gulf War, was being impugned. M&Ms are an American institution that's become part of our everyday lives, said Jen Conlan, External Affairs Director at Mars.
Like I said, that's kind of like how Mars feels about it at first, right? Is they're like, no, wholesome M&Ms that children love, that we gave to the brave soldiers in war.
That we sent to space.
But then I guess they just sort of start realizing that, like, wait, we can sell sex. Wait, this is a really easy way to sell sex and sell candy. So then, like I said, they pivot to the, like, what is it about the green ones campaign. They really embrace this, like, sexy green character. In 2008, they sell bags of just green M&Ms for Valentine's Day, which I think is kind of funny.
I feel like I actually kind of remember that, and I didn't get it back then.
Yeah, I don't think I did either. But, like, they have the normal, like, Valentine's colors of, like, red, white, and pink. They do this for holidays now, too. But continuing on with, like, our friends, the M&M characters here, I have in parentheses, why do people have so many weird sex things with a piece of candy?
I don't know.
It's just my lasting question for, like, this whole second half of our episode here. But in 2022, M&Ms do a bit of a rebrand. I think their goal is, like, some kind of, like, diversity, equity thing of, like, I don't really get it, of, like, trying to be more inclusive, but I don't really see how. We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But basically, they give the female characters more casual attire, and like I said, they bring back the purple M&M, and they give, there's, like, a purple mascot as well, who is plus-sized.
What?
I don't know. She's like a peanut M&M, I think, or almond or something like that. Conservatives get mad because they, of course, Mars sort of temporarily retires the M&M Spokescandies and replaces them with Maya Rudolph, but a la the death of Mr. Peanut, as we saw several years ago, where they're like, no, he's dead. The M&Ms came back the next year. It was just a stunt.
If we ever have merch, can we just have a shirt that says, a la the death of Mr. Peanut?
Yeah. A la the death of Mr. Peanut, our show can never truly die or be killed in any way that matters.
It's true.
Julia, I have included a photo here. You may need to enlarge it a little bit, but I have a picture here of the previous versions of the M&Ms and then the current rebranded version of the M&Ms.
Enhance.
What differences do you see between these characters?
Let's see. Brown M&M is still wearing heels, although her lips are less luscious. I will say that. Red looks the same, slightly more red. Yellow looks the same. He's not waving, but that's fine. He's got they all have cool new kicks. Their sneakers have gotten an upgrade.
Yeah, their sneakers have laces now.
Blue looks the same. Orange looks the same. And of course, best for last, the green M&M has gone from a classic model pose wearing high-heeled boots and a little seductive smirk to looking more casual in some sneakers and tights, I guess. I don't know, her legs are white. And little hands on the hips, looking more like I'm just hanging out than I am a bombshell model.
She's very cash.
This is her off-duty model look.
Yeah, very true. So, as I have here, my God, the number of people that got mad that they gave green sneakers instead of heels. People felt extremely strongly about this. One such person was famous Fox News contributor Tucker Carlson.
Oh, jeez.
I guess I should say former contributor Tucker Carlson. I think this must be how Michael Hobbs feels when he does research or, like, debunking on all of these, like, people for If Books Could Kill and Maintenance Phase, where it's just like, I've destroyed my algorithms. Like, I hate that I am consuming content from this person. But I did watch part of one of the several, like, rants. There's really no other way to say it. Rants that Tucker Carlson gives about the M&Ms rebrand. And he is one of those people that I think really enjoyed the M&Ms Premiums commercials back in the day.
Of course he did.
Okay, so Julia, as I said, I watched some of the rant. I couldn't watch the whole thing, but I think this is maybe a key section here. So please read this quote here from Tucker Carlson, which I think sort of encapsulates, like, why conservatives were mad about this rebrand. Whenever you're ready.
All right. I'm very excited. M&Ms will not be satisfied until every last cartoon character is deeply unappealing and totally androgynous. Until the moment when you wouldn't want to have a drink with any one of them. That's the goal. when you're totally turned off, we've achieved equity. They've won.
And these comments are accompanied by the following on-screen banners, quote, "Candy in sexy shoes is highly offensive," and "Progress at last, plain frumpy M&M candy," end quote.
I'm just like, do you hear yourself? Do you hear yourself when you speak?
I don't know.
I don't think they do. I think they have misunderstood the intention of marketing.
I think so. Yeah, so as far as I can tell, like, I think that Eminem's intention was like, you know, green is more than just sexy, right? She's got her own personality or whatever. Make her more comfortable. Make M&Ms feel more inclusive, I guess.
I think the people who are marketing for M&Ms, they don't care if the green M&M is sexy or not. If you make a change to a character that is known for one thing and you take that aspect away from them, it's gonna cause waves. And waves is just more media for you. It's just more marketing for you.
Yeah, I mean, like, this was a whole thing, like, last year, I think the year before, when this whole rebrand was happening. People had such strong feelings about it, and I think it's, like you said, it's the sort of, like, any press is good press, yes. Right? Just the sense of, I mean, it's especially how it works nowadays with the social media, right? Of, like, you just need people to talk about your brand. Not even necessarily, like, it doesn't really matter what people are saying. It's just, like, as long as they are talking about it.
Yeah, a rebrand happens because you want to get the brand back into the mainstream psyche. It is to essentially refresh the brand's image. And what better way than doing something that you know is going to tick off a large population that just absolutely loves to just go ham on things like this. If intentional, it's a very clever marketing trick. If unintentional, then they got a lot of great press out of this.
And speaking of great press, I do have some pretty long quotes here that I would like you to read. Feel free to take your time, but they are really worth it. This is from an article from Rolling Stone titled, quote, "Let the green M&M be a nasty little slut." Take your time reading through these, because it's really something.
Okay.
I'll preface it by saying I'm quite sure that this person is being, like, overdramatic, sarcastic, ironic. But yeah. All the same, it's great.
This sounds like a satirical article, but I shall read it nonetheless. For those familiar with the iconography of the green M&M, this change is nothing more than tectonic. I imagine it is similar to how the people of Wittenberg must have felt watching Martin Luther nail his 95 theses of the Protestant Reformation to the church door. But it is also a major error on Mars Wrigley's part, because the green M&M being a dirty slut, as signified by her iconic white go-go boots, is precisely what has engendered her to a devoted fan base, particularly among similarly libidinous women and gay men who have embraced the character. Oh, so she's a gay icon.
Yeah, I suppose.
Part 2. The green M&M has spent decades building her brand as a horny, sexy bitch. And for what? For her creators to give her Larry David footwear in the name of feminism? For Mars Wrigley to give themselves pats on the back and big fat fucking raises at the next corporate retreat in Palo Alto? Guess what? The green M&M is a feminist, and she's a dirty slut. We are real and we exist, and we refuse to tolerate this disgusting attempt at erasure. We are given so little, and we have tolerated so much. Let the green M&M keep her go-go boots. Let her get blackout and suck dick in the bathroom. Sorry. That broke me.
I was like, you're doing so well. I can't believe she's not, like, I'm cracking up over here, and I've read this at least a dozen times.
Oh, it got me. I was trying so hard. In the bathroom at Acme on a Wednesday. This is what we want. This is what we deserve. This is what she deserves. Oh. Oh, bravo.
Yeah, well
done. A great
done.
article. I love it. 10 stars.
Imagine getting to write something like that and get paid for it. I don't know.
Oh, that would be like my best Wednesday ever.
A dream. I came across that article. I was like, I can't put the whole thing in here, but like, boy, I'm gonna pull out some choice pieces.
There was a choice piece.
Okay, so not only is the green M&M a nasty little slut, as we've said, and she's right to do that. She lives her life. We're also gonna make conservatives mad by making your favorite characters queer and trans. Sorry, not sorry. We're here to ruin everything. So, you may have seen this like circulating online somewhere. I choose to believe that the green M&M is a trans woman. So, as you'll see from the still here, back in the 1980s, there were several TV commercials where green was a peanut M&M with like a country accent, very much like male presenting. And green is obviously now very female presenting. I mean, as I said, this is all like, how do we define gender? How can you, like, say that any of these little pieces of candy have, like, a conclusive gender? Or, you know, like, this is a piece of candy. Other than, like, their voices and maybe their attire. Like, and now if they're all wearing sneakers, like, who's to say what gender any of them are? Maybe that's sort of what M&M was going for. But I will say that green and brown are dating.
Oh?
This is an official tweet from M&M's Chocolate on Twitter several years ago. I don't have the year. Read the tweet and then describe the photo for us, Julia.
I shall. It says, "It's rare Miss Brown and I get to spend time together without some colorful characters barging in." From Miss Green. And it is the green M&M and the brown M&M sitting on a bench in front of a lovely beach vista, and green M&M has her hand on brown M&M's upper thigh, and brown M&M has her hand on top of green M&M's hand. They are very clearly dating.
Yep, they're holding hands on the beach. So there we go. Green is a trans woman. She's a slut. She's in a lesbian relationship with brown M&M. We are here, and we've ruined all of your favorite little...
Yeah, I think it's just like, does any of this really matter? No. It does not matter if the green M&M is wearing heels, or if she's not wearing heels, or if she's a nasty little slut, or if she is like some straight man's weird wet dream. These are just little characters that people have created to sell a chocolate candy. At the end of the day, you can go to bed and not think about the green M&M, and there will be no consequences in the world. But it is so fun to put feelings and desires into characters, and to take a character and have it represent like things you love, like, you know, her being a gay icon or or things like that. Like, there is definitely merit to how people put feelings and such into food or food characters or characters, because that's like a very human thing to do. But I think it's also helpful to remember at the end of the day, you can eat a green M&M. And I don't mean like that, but you can like... You can eat... Unless. You can eat M&Ms and they are tasty. And that's all you really need to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm looking at this, like, pink peach daiquiri nail polish that we have in the chat here, and I'm thinking about Barbie. It's kind of like playing with dolls. Like, yes, we talked earlier about how they have sort of defined personalities in some ways, but, like, they're also really blank slates in a way, you know, of, like, you can play with them like you play with dolls, right? Or, like, little paper dolls, right? You can project what you want onto them. God, and this is especially American because they aren't like, you know, characters from a book or something. Like, they're invented by a marketing company.
Yes.
So, as we said, the only reason Americans do anything is because it was marketed to them. That is like, maybe that's our national text, is advertising.
It is.
So I sort of think of it in that way of like, kind of like playing with dolls, you know, of like, well, my blonde Barbie may go on very different adventures than your blonde Barbie, right? Or my green M&M may be very different than your green M&M. Like, it's fine. It's all fine. This is another thing that I feel like we could get into philosophical debates about, but in watching all of these videos on YouTube of like old commercials, I saw a comment from someone on one of these that was like, I feel like the green M&M and the brown M&M are sort of like the two types of women right? Or the two types of feminism. The two things that women can be. You can be a sexy model, or you can be like a business career lady.
Yeah.
Because that's what Brown is. She's very like serious and sensible, no nonsense.
She's wearing glasses.
She's wearing glasses. And I'm like, man, this recording is an hour and 45 minutes. We don't have time to get into all of that. But it is something that I have been thinking a lot about of like, yeah, it kind of is. It speaks to the types of representation that we get as women, I guess. Even given like something that's supposed to be such a blank slate as like a freaking piece of candy, women are still like, would you like to be sexy lady or corporate business lady?
And I'd even argue like corporate business lady Brown M&M is very feminine. She's wearing like high heels. She's very prim. She's very proper. You know, she's like still got like mascara on and she's got like lips. And I think, like you said, it's so true that in a lot of media depicting women, you either have like the male gaze or the expectation of what feminism is, you know, in the sense of like a career woman. She's very like no nonsense. She's dating a woman.
Yeah.
Very like capable and anti-man. And you don't really get a lot of representation of just like a woman as not a man's idea of a feminist or a man's idea of sex.
Yeah, and I'll just say one more thing, which is I'm thinking about, so like I said, a Nostalgia Critic on YouTube, who has lots of really great video essays about various, you know, different components of film and different movies and everything like that. But something that he often says in his videos when he's like breaking down or reviewing like a particular movie, when there's a female character, is like, her personality is girl.
Yes.
And I'm sure the women listening can relate to this of like, you've watched a movie where like there's literally one female character and she has no depth. Her purpose is to be either like a romantic interest or like reassuring for the main male lead or something. And just like, she has no kind of character on her own. Her personality is girl. And I think that's still sort of true here, but it's just like the two types of girl. Sexy girl and business girl, you know, like...
Yeah. Now here we are on our own Tucker Carlson, like, rant about feminism and M&Ms.
Yep. Regardless of how you choose to imagine the green M&M in your little paper doll fantasy, whether she is a trans lesbian, whether she is a dirty little slut, or whether she is just a piece of candy, eat some M&Ms and have a happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
That's why we did this episode for February, because candy.
If you didn't put that together, that is why we did this episode.
I fully meant to say that in the beginning and then forgot, because I had to tell everybody about how the people that make M&Ms also make dog food in aquariums.
There was a lot of in this episode.
Well, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Thanks for lunching with us.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Our theme music is Red Onions by Louis Zong. Please check out the rest of his album Vegetable Soul in the description. You can follow us on Twitter at Girls Lunch. Nicole is also on Twitter at NicoleH262, and her website is NicoleHilton.com. Julia is smarter than all of us and not on social media. Thank you for listening. Why did this salad blush? No, wait, hang on. I saw the, I'm butchering this so bad.
You saw the salad dressing?
Yeah. No, why did the tomato blush? That's what it is. Why did the tomato blush?
Because you saw the marshmallow dressing.
Yeah, yeah, oh god. It's gone so sideways.